them, let's get warmed up. Here are some multiplication fact practice problems. Go ahead and answer those on your whiteboard as quick as you can. Try not to use your multiplication chart, and then come back to me when you're done. Okay, let's check out these answers. Let us know if you have any questions. Today we're going to be talking about sample size and sound conclusions. Your lesson objective or learning target is I can draw conclusions based on a sample. I want you to look at the pieces of candy in the candy bowl today. How could you find out the percent of each color in the bag of candy that I put in the bowl? What are some methods that you think you could use? Do you think you would just separate one at a time, all of them, and count them up? Do you think it's somewhere in the bag, maybe, that it says it? Or do you think that it would help to look at a small sample of the candy from the bag and count the number of each color in the sample? That would probably be the simplest way to do it. And that's what we're going to do today. A sample. A sample is a part of a population intended to help represent the whole population. So a sample is like a handful, while the population in data collection is the group of objects that is the focus of the study. So the population in this case is the whole bowl, and the sample are the 10 candies that you're going to get to work with today. In other surveys and data collection, lots of times your population is a huge group of people. But to get just a sample size, they might just interview 4 or 5 people. To get a true result, though, you need to make sure sample size is decent sized. For example, if we were wondering something about Olive Sheridan, we wouldn't take the opinions of 5 people, but instead we'd want to take a larger sample to really represent this town. Okay, now you'll be collecting a sample. You'll be working with a total of 10 pieces of candy, and you'll be recording your data on page 180 in your math journal. So pause now, raise your hand, we'll bring over 10 pieces of candy, and open up your math journal to page 180 before you continue. Okay, the first thing you're going to do here is you are going to fill out this chart with your candy colors, and then you're going to just count up how many of each color. So if these are my 10 candies down below, I have 3 pinks, I have 2 greens, 1 purple, 2 whites, and 2 orange. The next thing I need to do is find the percent of these candies that are each color. So what percent of my 10 candies are pink, what percent are green, what percent are purple, what percent are white, and what percent are orange? So how do you think we're going to do that? If you think back to making a percent, you can first turn it into a fraction. So for pink, I have 3 pinks. That's going to become my numerator. And my denominator is how many in all? Well, you got 10 pieces of candy, so 3/10. Okay, then we're going to need to turn that into a decimal. 3/10 turned into a decimal is going to be decimal point 3. Okay, and then we're going to need to turn that into a percent. And remember, to turn a decimal into percent, you can just multiply it by 100, or you can move the decimal point twice. So if I move it once, twice, and put it here, I can then fill in this hole with a 0, and it's going to become 30%. So up here where it says percent, I'm going to type in 30%. Okay, so then I'm going to go on and I'm going to figure out the percent that were green, percent that were purple, percent that were white, and the percent that were orange. I want you to do the same thing with your candies. Figure out how many of each color you have, and then you might also need to add a yellow column, and then make sure you find out the percent as well. Go ahead and do that now. Next, you'll create a circle graph of your results. You'll need your template, the circle worksheet that's on the back of our schedule for today, and crayons to fill in your percentages. So we found our percentages over here, okay? Now we're going to go ahead and draw them over here. So if you remember how to do this is you're going to use the percentage part of your template. So I've gone ahead and found my percentages here, okay? And pink was 30%. I'm going to line up my center dot, the center of my percentage template, and then I'm going to make a mark for my 0, and then I'm going to find 30%. I'm going to make another mark. Okay, so from here to here is all going to be pink. My next part is going to be white. So I have a couple of options. I can think that 30 plus 20 is going to be 50, and I can leave my template the same and mark for 50. Or if that's confusing to you, you can always rotate your template and realign it at the 0, so that way you can mark 20%. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and connect these with straight lines. So I've got one from here to here, and from here to here. Okay, then I'm going to take my colors. So for the first one, I'm going to need pink, was 30%, so I'm going to color this in pink. Then my next part's white, so I'm going to leave it alone. Then I'm going to move on to green. Green's going to be 20% as well. So I'm going to think, okay, I had 0 to 20. So if I started at 20 and I added another 20, I'm going to go to 40%. Then my next one will be 20% again, so 40 to 60. And my last little section, 60 to 70, is that 10. So once again, I'm going to connect the lines. So I can move my template out of the way now. I'm going to finish coloring these in. Let's see, so I have green next. Green was 20%. Next I have orange, it's also 20%. And my purple was this small 10%. All right, so there is my circle graph that's showing my result of my candies. Now remember, this is just a sample of the whole bowl. We're going to use this information, however, though, to help us figure out the percentages of the whole bowl. So what I've done here is we have created some data. What I want you to do is put your results of your number of candies for each color in here, okay? So if it were me, if I look back to my pink, I had 3 pinks. So I would write a 3 in here, okay? 3 for pink. And write down how many whites, green, orange, purples, and yellows I have, okay? So you're going to fill those in, and then you're going to need to figure out your totals for each line, okay? So then I want you to think, how do they compare to one another? What I did here is I wrote down some samples when I grabbed 10 candies, okay? Sometimes you'll notice that sometimes I didn't get any green, sometimes I didn't get any purple, sometimes I didn't get any white. It was all completely random, but I think what you're going to find over here when you get to your totals is that they're all going to kind of be pretty close to equal over here. Okay, then with these new totals, these are our new class totals. So instead of looking at just 10 candies, we have 10 groups of 10, which is 100 candies in all. So we're going to look at our totals over here, and we're going to transfer those totals into our counts. Then you're going to need to find your percents for those, and I want you to make another circle graph that is showing you the percent colors for 100 of these candies. And that'll really give us a better look. Hopefully what you're going to end up noticing is that pretty much all of these, they're going to equal themselves out. Where over here when I made my individual one, I didn't have any yellow in mine. But as you can see, when we looked at the whole class, some yellows were starting to appear. Okay, so you need to have both of your circle graphs checked, and then you'll need to reflect on these circle graphs by looking at the bottom of page 180 and answering those questions. And then when you get done, they're both checked, you have math boxes to complete as well for 6-5. All right, guys, work hard.